Welcome to today's Daily Walk in Wisdom. We're in the Song of Songs. We're in chapter 4 and we're reading from verses 1 to 5. The king is talking. He says, "Behold, you are fair, my love. Behold, you are fair. You have dove's eyes within your locks. Your hair is as a flock of goats descending from the hills of Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of sheep, shorn evenly, coming up from the washing, of which every one bears twins, and none is barren among them. Your lips are like a thread of scarlet, and your speech is lovely. Your cheeks behind your veil are like the halves of a pomegranate. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built for an armory, on which there hangs 1,000 shields, all of them shields of mighty men. Your breasts are like 2 fawns, like twin fawns of a gazelle that feeds among the lilies." Wow. In order to reinforce his view of the Shulamite, the king calls her fair over and over again. In fact, in the next 10 verses, he repeats the phrase 4 times. Previously, whenever the king expressed his view of her, the response was negative. The first occasion, she said, look not upon me, because I am black." And it led to her returning to her brother's vineyard. When next she was praised, her spiritual experience became insular and selfish. This time, however, she's grown, and her experience is one of real faith. Her life is now hid with Christ in God. She's seen the heavenly vision. We've spent 6 days in the heavenly vision. She's seen the heavenly vision, and her only desire is to be with the king and see others drawn to him. This attitude causes the king to reinforce his view of her, and he calls her fair and provides an extensive description of the things within her which please him. Now, when you see something you admire, something that is appealing to you in someone who is part of your inner circle, your circle of influence, you should make an effort to let them know specifically what it is or what they have done that is appealing to you. Don't just say, "You're a nice person," or "I like you," or even "I love you." It's nice to say things like that, but if you really want to get the best out of a person, the best that is within a person, then people need to know exactly what it is about them that you find admirable. That will reinforce their sense of self-worth. And so when your husband or your wife or your children do something that is touching, that touches your heart, and you want to see them repeat that, and you want to see them become more and more like that sense of nobility, that kind act, that honesty, that truthfulness, that strength. Whenever you see these things being formed within those around you or being given expression, let them know all about it, and you will see more of that come forth within their lives. And that's what the king is doing here with the Shulamite, or what Jesus does with his church. He says, "You have dove's eyes." Now, once again, he speaks with her about having a fixed field of focus. The eyes are the window of the soul, and her soul is now filled with light because the bride's eyes are fixed on Jesus. The dove can see much further than human eyes can see, and certain types of doves have been trained for air-sea rescue operations because of their ability to see long distances. So the Shulamite's vision is becoming clearer and more acute as she concentrates on the king. Her view of the king, her view of herself, and her view of the daughters of Jerusalem are all changed as a result of her focus upon the king. Later, the powers of darkness also come into view, but not until the proper time. To focus on darkness before everything else is in perspective is a dangerous thing to do. Many times you see young Christians being encouraged to focus on the devil over this and over that. They never grow up out of that because they're being pointed towards those things too soon. You have to have your eyes fixed on Jesus and have your eyes adjusted to being able to see the good things of God before you have the capacity to correctly see areas of darkness. Now, that her eyes are within your locks points to the covering everybody needs when entering deeper into spiritual things. And Jesus has given the bride a covering. They are the shepherds of the church. And it's the job of the shepherds of the church to protect the church's vision and keep the church focused on Jesus. Whenever shepherds turn people's eyes towards anything else, could be end times, could be demons and darkness, could be manifestations of the Spirit. If shepherds direct the church's eyes away from Jesus, then the result will be immaturity within the church. And sometimes churches even go so off track that they become sectarian, such is the case with many denominations, especially of recent years, and many independent churches. And if you're not careful, not only can you become sectarian, but you can also become cultic. A church that becomes a cult. A church that becomes a cult has so turned their eyes away from Jesus that they don't even understand salvation in the way that the rest of the church understands salvation. Okay, then it says that your hair is as a flock of goats descending from Mount Gilead. That's where, Mount Gilead is where the sacrificial lambs and goats and sheep were kept. It's a reference to sacrifice. Mount Gilead, or the Hill of Testimony, was where the sacrificial animals were kept in preparation for the temple sacrifices. And a goat descending Mount Gilead was on its way to the altar. So the king is commending the bride for her sacrificial nature. That this relates to the Shulamite's hair gives a link biblically to the Nazirite vow. In this vow, something had to grow and some things had to go. Anyone making a Nazirite vow had to grow their hair. They could not cut their hair for the duration of the vow. The moment that Delilah cut Samson's 7 braids, all of his supernatural strength disappeared, because the braids were the sign or the symbol of his vow to God, his Nazirite vow. The hair is commended because it represents the strength that God invests in the church. Strength that flows sacrificially over our lives for as long as we maintain our vows to Jesus. The Nazirite vow also disallowed any consumption of any product from the vine. So that means natural stimulation is forbidden. The bride cannot seek any other stimulus than the king's presence. And further, the Nazirite couldn't touch a dead body, as this would make him unclean. Now, to the bride, this means that there is an embargo on anything that doesn't have resurrection life. So anything that is for self-pleasure, we cannot do. Anything that is not of faith, we cannot do. Anything that is fruitless, we cannot do. And so Jesus commends the church when it avoids all of these areas of stimuli, all of these stimulations, these things make us attractive to Jesus when we say no to those things and commit ourselves to finding our stimulation in Jesus alone, in Christ alone. It's also a reference to our consecration, because hair has to grow. It has to grow. You don't suddenly get a whole mop of hair on your head. It has to grow there. And so this means that consecration doesn't come fully formed, but is developed over time from one level to the next. I know you want it all at once, but as you commit at this level, so your hair will grow to this level, and then it will grow to the next level. And another thing about hair is you can't watch it while growing. You can't watch it growing. It grows spontaneously and automatically as you live life. And so as you live your life for Jesus, without you even realizing it, your consecration grows. We got more things that the king says about the Shulamite that we will look at tomorrow, things that are wonderful and cause the king or Jesus to be attracted to us. Yes. So God bless you. There's more wisdom on its way. I'll see you tomorrow.